What's up, everyone, and welcome to the 26th episode of the Control Freak Podcast. I am Alex Blackard, or @LessAlex on Twitter. Make sure to go follow me there. This is the only Magic the Gathering podcast devoted to all things Control in Standard, Modern, and Pioneer. We are proudly sponsored by Solitary Pro and our Patreon supporters. If you dig the content and want to help support it further, head on over to the Patreon. It's in the description below. I appreciate all my patrons, and they help bring us this awesome content. Today I have a special guest, Logan Woodrum. Logan, how's it going, buddy?
It's going really good. Thank you for having me on.
Absolutely. Thanks for being here. Logan, you are a member of Solitary, so I appreciate you and the team, and we are going to have a pretty in-depth conversation here about a couple of things. Today, the Modern GP just ended, or rather, I guess you can't call them GPs, what are they called now? The Magic Fest. The Magic Fest, yes.
Yeah.
So we're going to delve into the Magic Fest Columbus and how Control stacked up in this tournament, as well as we'll be digging into Pioneer decks. There's a couple of tournaments that happened over the past week. There was the PTQ, and then a bunch of decks have just been popping up randomly on 5.0s and just on Twitter that I want to talk about. And we're actually going to talk about a deck that you are championing in Standard, if you want to kind of give just a intro to that. Not the whole thing, but just like talk about it briefly.
So it's a blue-white control list that I've been working on since Core 20, really, when we got a few more pieces.
Sure.
We got a couple of the lands that help fix our mana base with Glacial Fortress leaving. We got a couple of creatures that now fit into the deck.
Yeah.
But it's this really good control deck that I'm posting a very good record with, and that a couple other people have just had some really good finishes and top finishes with it.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm super excited for that.
Just won a PTQ. A lot of Pascal Maynard is like playing it a little bit, and in your Discord. The deck's legit. I played it a little bit too, and I can confirm the deck is pretty solid. So thanks for no Okos and no Veil of Summers and all that nonsense in Standard. That's gone. So now maybe Blue-White's here to stay in Standard. But before we talk about that deck, we are going to just hop right into the GP coverage, which, sorry to say it again, and I hate saying this, almost like the past month worth of episodes, Blue-White Control. Remember, this was a modern GP. This is a modern Magic Fest. So Blue-White Control is just not there right now. In first place, Brian Koval, congrats to him. He took it down with Sultai Urza. And then in second place, Adam Franzi, who actually played the exact 75 at the SCG Invitational last week. He got second with Mono Green Tron. So that's pretty great for him. Like he's on quite a roll. And then we got third place. It was Humans, which is making a resurgence. Another Sultai Urza deck in fourth, Humans in fifth, Burn in sixth and seventh, and then Mono Green Tron to round out the top 8. And it wasn't very pretty in terms of like day 2 conversion for Blue-White Control. What's your take on this top 8 and where Modern sits currently?
So I don't think that it's under any question that Urza or Urza decks just in general are probably the best deck that are sitting at the top of the format.
I would definitely agree.
It makes me happy to see Humans pop up.
Yeah, a fair deck, right? I'm about that.
A fair deck. They can definitely push the pressure against Urza, and make them have to play a lot differently than what they would have. Tron, it's Tron.
Tron's always there, man. It's always present.
It's never going to go away. And then you have Burn, which it seems like ever since Dallas Fort Worth earlier this year that Burn's just kind of stuck around at the top.
Yeah.
There was a little bit when Oko first started popping up into Simic Urza decks that Burn kind of fell off, but I think people are starting to realize what that deck is, how to attack it, even with Burn, in such a way that you can just have a positive matchup with it. So it's all about Urza right now.
Yeah. I mean, it's pretty disgusting. I feel like a broken record coming on here every week and talking about Urza, but this deck is so good. Obviously, it's starting to play black. It's splashing black for fatal pushes and Assassin's trophies, and even Drowning the Lock. Drowning the Lock is a card that in Modern I think is like excellent. In Pioneer, I think it definitely isn't the best. It's plausible in Pioneer, but I mean it's just a house in Modern, right? Like and then it's got Thought Seizes as well. This deck is it's damn good. I don't think it's any secret at this point. Gilded Goose into Oko is just insane, and now they're playing Karn the Great Creator to go get Lattice, so they can just combo kill you that way. Somebody, I forget who asked me, somebody was like, is that a combo deck now? Or is that a combo deck still? And I'm like, kind of. It can just grind you out, or it can just Lattice lock you. So it's brutal, man. It's real hard out here for the control mages in Modern. It's not looking great for us. I do have a metagame breakdown for day 2. There was 13% were Sultai Urza, 10% was Urzatron, 10% is Grixis Death Shadow. So, I mean, Grixis Death Shadow, we feast on. Blue-White Control feasts on that deck, but unfortunately, this damn this damn Urza deck is really just giving us fits.
Yeah.
And then of course Burn's like a fine matchup. What do you think about the Jund matchup for Blue-White right now in Modern?
For control, I'd say that it's a little bit better for control. I hate playing it because like I'm currently on Stoneblade and I just hate the Jund matchup.
Yeah.
Just because like instead of like shoot my Snapcaster Mage, make me discard a card, it's shoot your Stoneforge Mystic, blow up your sword or your Batter Skull.
Yeah.
And that really sucks. That sets you back extremely far.
Yeah. I mean, especially since like the printing of Ren and 6, I think it was very close, probably favored for Jund, but now I feel like it's real rough for Blue-White. Like, it's not abysmal, but I think that they are slightly favored.
When they go Thoughtseize to Ren and 6 to Liliana.
Oh my gosh, it's lights out. Lights out.
Like you just don't make it that far, and then there's the chance that on 4 they just have Bloodbraid Elf, and then you're just so far behind at that point that I don't think anything that we have would be able to pull us out from that.
Yeah, I mean if they go 1 through 4, that sequence like Thoughtseize, Ren and 6, Lily, into Bloodbraid, like. You can't. You just can't. You can't beat it. And then we got Jund, Human, Sultai, Azorius Control. There were 5 Azorius Control decks in day 2. So that is promising. That's actually more than I thought there was going to be, if I'm being honest. But I know that a lot of solid players were playing Control. There was oh goodness, I'm forgetting his name now, but he posted on Twitter that he was 6-0, and that was like one thing that I was like, oh, okay, maybe we're back. But as the data started to trickle through, it's very apparent to me, and feel free to give your input, but it's very apparent right now that Blue-White is just. I would not sleeve up a Celestial Colonnade deck in Modern right now. Like, I hate to say that because that's what this is all about, but
I wouldn't either. What I'm currently doing is not too long ago, Sam Black had a Sultai Sanctuary list.
He actually his first time playing that deck was at Moonbase Market, and I talked to him a little bit. So He was like, yeah, I casted 13 cryptic commands that game. Like, no joke, actual factual 13 cryptic commands.
Yeah. I think that if I'm going to sleeve up a control deck, it's going to be that one.
Yeah.
I can't see sleeving up a Celestial Colonnade ever. Like, Field of Ruin just kind of feels bad to sleeve up too. It just all feels just rough.
No, yeah, I mean, I definitely agree. Some of these decks, though, like Eldrazi Tron and Grixis Death Shadow, obviously, both fine matchups. Even Tron, even actual, like, mono-green Tron is, like, a fine matchup for blue-white. The problem is that there's just so much Urza, and there's, like, Burn and Jund. Like, Burn's obviously not terrible, but they can just kill you, right? Like, yeah, so I'm just... I'll be interested to see if Death Shadow keeps getting more and more popular. I don't think at this point it will overtake Urza unless there's like some sort of ban. But if Grixis Death Shadow keeps getting better and better and higher percentages, then I might be interested because that's probably Blue-White Control's best matchup. So, but yeah, I mean, this is dark days in Modern. That's why if you've been watching my content, listening to the podcast and all that, I've been focusing on Pioneer for the last month, really. So, but yeah, moving on to some Pioneer stuff, some Pioneer content. We just had a Magic Online Pioneer PTQ that was won by Bant Ramp Field of the Dead. So, I mean, Field of the Dead was such a nuisance in Standard, and now it's starting to seep into Pioneer. And what are your takes on this Bant Field of the Dead deck? It's the right colors, I'll say that much. It's just not quite the correct strategy that I necessarily want to be playing in Pioneer.
Yeah, no, it's not something that I would myself would personally sleeve up, but it's something that I can see sleeving up. You just you get a lot bigger, a lot faster than most of the decks out there. I think that it's going to take a super hyper aggressive deck to get past you because your turn one, you've got an Arboreal Grazer. That's a 0/3. It's got reach. So if they try and fly over you with a Smuggler's Copter or something, you're able to just reach up and block it. Then you've got Elver's Rejuvenator. You've got Hydroid Krasis. Sphinx Revelation, just a really good card.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of cards in this deck I like Verdict, Revelation, hell, even Once Upon a Time. I like that card in Kethis. I've been playing a lot of Kethis in Pioneer. Rip Oath of Nissa. Unfortunately, I don't think that deck's much very good anymore, but obviously Teferi, but I don't think I would ever want to cast a Boreal Grazer on turn one.
I wouldn't either.
Yeah. That's just not something I'm interested in. So moving on down the list, we got, of course, Devotion, Mono Green Devotion. This deck is just here. They've hit it with 3 or 4 bans now.
Yeah.
They've been kind of dancing around the real problem card, in my opinion, which is Nykthos. I mean, I understand they want to keep the fun, exciting cards in the format, which that's definitely one of those. But this deck is very good. If you haven't played against it yet, I mean, them going like Burning Tree into really anything is just extremely good.
Yep.
And then we have Mono Black Aggro in third. Mono Black Aggro is actually a deck that I just made a YouTube video on, so go check that out. But this deck is sweet. It's very fast, and if you're looking to play control in Pioneer, be weary of this deck because holy smokes, it just gets you because there's so many recursive threats. What's your take on this deck? Do you think this is here to stay? I mean, it's been littered all over, like 5-0s, the mocks, like it's been everywhere, man.
Yeah. At the SCG Con, in the Pioneer side of things, I think Ross Merriam was on it, and he piloted it to a really good record. I think that this deck has all the makings to be a consistent threat.
Yeah.
Just like even the smaller things, like at Night Market Lookout with Smuggler's Copter.
Oh, yeah. The
Like,
incremental damage, man. It
yeah.
just piles up. And the deck that won, the player that won the Invitational was playing Mono Black Aggro. And, I mean, it wasn't even close. Like, he smoked people. In the finals, he 3-0'd his opponent. Like,
Yeah.
the deck's no joke, man.
Yeah, it's just that good. And then, like, when you go to the sideboard, you get even better because Khalid Trader of Get's just always been
Oh my
a really
gosh.
good card. It saw some fringe modern play. It's seen some
Right.
modern play. It was good when it was in standard.
Yeah. It was excellent when it was in standard. And to your point, John breaks it out in modern every so often. If the format's burn heavy, they'll break that out. So yeah, I mean I agree. I think this if we're trying to beat this deck, we're gonna need to find some ways to exile creatures. And it's awkward too because Rest in Peace isn't typically something you want against aggro decks, but boy, it might be a necessary evil at this point.
I think there's another. I think it's like Ashes of the
Abhorrent. Yeah. What does that card do again?
I've seen some people. So let me pull it up here.
I
think it says.
I know it's very similar to Rest in Peace, but I looked at that card and I was like, oh well, I would just always play Rest in Peace, but yeah, I'm not sure exactly what that card does. I don't remember.
Players can't cast spells from graveyards. Whenever a creature dies, you gain 1 life.
Okay. I'm not sure. Now let's see. Does Bloodsoaked Champion? I don't think it casts though.
Players can't cast spells from graveyards or activate abilities of cards in graveyards.
Oh, sure. I see. Yeah. So, yeah. I mean, that would shut this deck down pretty good.
Yeah.
And
So
of course,
that's
Mono
an
Black.
option
Mono Black
rather
has
than-
no way to deal with enchantments. So, yeah, except for, of course, like Thoughtseize. But one thing about this deck too is there's no card in here that I really look at and I'm like, yeah, that's a bannable card. Like except for Smuggler's Copter, I could see them maybe doing that. But other than that, this deck is pretty ban proof. Would you agree?
I would agree
Yeah,
wholeheartedly.
I mean, Fatal Push, not Thoughtseize is probably, and I've been saying this for weeks. Thoughtseize is the best card in this format. However, it's an answer, not a threat. So if they banned it, I would just be like, "Are we done here?" Like, what is this format now? And then we had Teamer Aggro, and this deck, pretty sweet. It kind of reminds me of Standard because there's a lot of Standard takeaways in this deck. We got Bone Crusher Giants, Gilded Geese. We got Questing Beast, Wicked Wolf, Once Upon a Time, Oko, the Royal Scions. Like, this deck is a lot of Standard cards. But, yeah, I got 4th. Checking out this deck, do you see any holes in it that control strategies could exploit? It looks pretty tight, to be honest. Like, and I mean tight as in the fact that it looks like a solid deck, not it's tight, bro.
Yeah. Like, it's just like how big they get, how fast. Like Wicked Wolf, Bone Crusher Giant, Glory Bringer, even like, and then Gilded Goose to accelerate them.
Yeah.
They can just get ahead of you, and you wouldn't be able to answer it without like Path to Exile in the format. Our creature removal is very, very, very thin.
Yeah,
we have to wait for 4 to Verdict, and that's our best interaction for the board, other than Teferi on turn 3.
Yeah, that's my big issue with like straight up blue-white control is there's no 1 mana. There's no Path to Exile. It's all like Deck in Stone, Azorius Charm. It's all 2 mana interaction.
No.
And boy, it just. I think I want to play Thoughtseize and Fatal Push in my control decks.
Yeah.
So and then in 5th place we have Azorius. I'm calling it Flash. It looks. Yeah. They say it's aggro, but this is like old school Azorius Flash. It would appear to me. Archangel Avacyn, Brazen Borrowers, Charming Prince, Reflector Mage, Spell Quellers, and Thraben Inspectors, along with Gideon, Ally of Zendikar, Teferi, Smuggler Copter, Deck in Stone. This deck is sweet. Before the show, we were talking, and I was saying if this deck is still relevant and they don't ban Smuggler's Copter, by the time Indy rolls around in February, this is probably the deck that I'll be playing, unless the format slows down considerably and I can play some straight up blue-white control. So,
yeah.
But moving on down the line, we have another Bant ramp deck, so more of the same there, and then another mono black aggro, and then we have Simic aggro, which, I mean, Galta. What more can you say? Galta's in this deck.
Yeah.
This deck gets real big real fast. Even a Surrak the Hunt Caller. This deck is quite the meme. I don't know. It's probably pretty good, honestly, but definitely not my style. What's your take on this thing?
I mean, any deck that's going to jam 3 copies of Galta, and it's probably doing something. Yorvo comes down on 3. You've got Gilded Goose on 1. Land of Rails, like Lovestruck Beast. You're just playing Galta as soon as you can play Galta as soon as 4 or 5.
Yeah.
And then you just have a 12/12 that you're staring down. It's like, oh my God, how do I answer that?
Yeah.
And then not to mention, Steel Leaf Champions, so your smaller creatures can't block it. Ronus, Questing Beast, so your Planeswalkers are always in jeopardy at some point.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I mean, it definitely seems solid, not taking anything away from it. In fact, it actually went 7-1 at the mocks. So a separate tournament, but so the Magic Online Pioneer tournament. Green-Black Field of the Dead. This deck is really cool. I mean, it's playing Thoughtseize, it's playing Fatal Pushes, it's playing stuff like that along with the field package. So I honestly think that might be better than the Bant version, just because I'm very, very high on Thoughtseize. So, and then we have Green Blue Stompy, very similar to what we just talked about. We had Blue White Spirits, Bant Field, another Blue White Spirits, more Mono Black, a couple of Bant Field decks, and then Mono Black Aggro was 9th through 13th. So
yeah,
it's
pretty crazy.
Yeah, I mean, that deck is. I said it whenever I saw it. I was like, oh my gosh. And whenever I actually got to play with it, I'm like, holy smokes, this deck is the real deal. And Rankles are $9. Night of the Ebon Legions are $8. It's crazy how much these cards have spiked. I think the prices in this format are going to be pretty volatile, though, here starting off.
Yep.
Yeah. Do you have any other takeaways from all the Pioneer tournaments? I do have one more deck that I wanted to talk about, but just in general.
I've been playing online a little bit.
Yeah.
And, there's a deck that I saw and I was like, oh my Lord, I really want to play that. It's a Myth Realized deck. So
what? Okay. I remember this card.
Okay.
You can turn it into a creature, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So anytime you cast a non-creature spell, you put a lore counter on it, or you can pay 3 to put a lore counter on it. You can pay 1 white, and it makes it a monk avatar with power and toughness equal to the number of counters on it.
Okay.
So
that's spicy.
You cast Tragic Lesson, return your Mystic Sanctuary, and you're just always drawing through your deck while also putting counters on it. And then it's not a creature most of the time, so they can't interact with it. And then you have Teferi to play down with it, so they can't target it at instant speed.
Wow. Okay.
So it's just a always protected threat. And I saw it, and so I've been playing a little bit in paper. I like it. I don't know how that fares going forward, but it's something that I've liked a lot.
Yeah, that's spicy. Like I said, I've been playing a lot of, and it's probably not something worth really playing, but I've been really having a lot of fun with Kethis. It's probably not good enough now that Oath of Nissa got banned, but man, is it fun to play. And I've been playing a little bit of the mono black deck, the Is It in Soul deck, which was everywhere last week and is nowhere to be found now this week. So who knows? Maybe that was a one-hit wonder. There is one other deck, though, I do want to play. the Twitter user TSP Gendrick played this blue-white control deck to a top 4 finish at the Card Market events. They have it's like the SCG series, basically, of Europe. And he played a very sick list. I will, of course, link it and all of this stuff in the description below and on the show notes below, utilizing 4 copies of main deck Azorius Charm, along with 2 main deck copies of Pithing Needle. What are your thoughts on Pithing Needle main deck?
I mean, I think that it's something that he may have had to adapt to, seeing as, I don't think there would be a reason to play it main board, but it just may be something that maybe a meta call that he might have had to take, and so it looks like it just done him a lot of good.
Yeah, I mean, I talked with him a little bit. He said that the Azorius Charms were like fine, but probably just necessary. So that's something to keep out if you're looking to play blue-white in Pioneer. I tend to agree with him. Azorius Charm is looking better and better. Being able to time walk your opponent is like no joke. And of course, late game or against the mirror, you can just cycle it. I definitely dig Azorius Charm. And Pithing Needle, I mean, there's a lot of Planeswalkers in this format, right?
Yeah.
It seems pretty decent. 2 seems a bit much, but he had success with it. He said he dig it. He enjoyed playing with it. So, and then he was playing Void Shatter. So, I've been talking about Absorb a lot and how I think that that's like the go-to 3-mana counterspell. If Mono Black's going to be the deck, you need a way to exile these cards. So Void Shatter might just be it. And it's not blue. So Mystical Dispute doesn't get the deduction. So it's devoid. So that's actually very relevant. The card choices are awesome. Again, I'll link that deck below, and I'll link it to the tweet in the show notes. But yeah, Pioneer is still sweet. I'm still brewing blue-white. I just had a video come out on blue-white on my YouTube channel, and I'm still digging it. I just think Esper's more my cup of tea just because Thoughtseize is so good.
Yeah.
But yeah, the next thing that we're going to dive into is Standard. Standard is something on this podcast I haven't really talked about just because, well, blue-white control has been pretty abysmal since I started this podcast. But you say that you have this special sauce. I will definitely link the list below, but if you want to kind of say some of the highlights and some of the folks that are buying into this deck.
Okay. So with this deck, it's something that, like I said, I've been working on for a while now. I currently have a record of it in competitive events of 43-4.
That's an insane record, dude.
You
need to get to a GP, man.
I know, but there's none. There's not anything standard wise for a long time. All the like IQs and opens and that kind of stuff are all like modern and Pioneer. Yeah. So I just have to hope that this stays good up past Theros.
We shall see.
But if I could get on somewhere and play this deck, man, it's crazy.
Somebody literally won a PTQ with this list too. So it's not just you. Other players are finding success with it. So.
Yeah. Corey Baumeister played it on his stream yesterday.
Yes, he did.
Pascal Maynard joined the Discord. I think it was today. I think he's going to start playing it. Joey Pasco. He's in there now. This deck is just... It's
good. It's good.
Yeah.
I got to play a little bit with it yesterday, and oh boy, Gadwick the Wizened is a messed up Magic card. And keep in mind, you guys know I don't play much Standard, so I was like, what is this? And then I played it, and holy smokes. When you draw 5 cards, when your opponent only has 2 cards in their hand, and it's like turn 10, gasoline.
Um,
Go ahead.
Agent of Treachery is a messed up Magic card as well.
Yeah.
Both Agent of Treachery, Gadwick, and Brazen Borrower. So you play 6 total creatures, 4 Borrowers, 1 Agent of Treachery, and 1 Gadwick. All of those cards alongside Teferi allow you to reuse them over and over.
Mm-hmm.
So Agent of Treachery being able to steal your opponent's lands, their planeswalkers, or their creatures, whatever.
It's nuts.
Gadwick to just continuously have a draw engine outside of your Chemister's Insights. Brazen Borrower to always out-tempo them.
And Gadwick's honestly like a win condition too, because from what I've seen, and I've only played it in like maybe 4 games or whatever, but the one game that I played it like so late game that I was just like cracking in for 3, like just smashing in, and it took them down to like maybe 6 life from like 20 or something, or like 18 or whatever. So definitely a win condition.
And then he has a very underutilized second ability of whenever you cast a blue spell,
tap a thing,
tap a permanent they control. So you can tap their lands, but a lot of times there's the cat food decks that are around.
Oh my
you
gosh!
Can tap down their witch's oven so they can't sacrifice their cauldron familiars. So if they are in a chump block mode, they can't just block then sack. They have to let it die and then hope to have something else to make a food to bring it back. Yeah. So it's got a lot of pressure that can put on you. Finale of Glory is a really good finisher. Mass Manipulation for the bigger mana decks. Now that Oko's gone, Mass Manipulation becomes just a game changer for us because you can take their board and make it yours.
Yeah.
Just a lot of stuff.
That's definitely one way of putting it. I played against Grixis control deck, and they resolved a Dragon God, and I just stole it, and then he stole it back, and then I Mystic Sanctuaried the Mass Manipulation back on top of the deck, and we had like a custody battle over this Nicol Bolas, but it ended with me getting the W because Mass Manipulation is insane.
Yeah.
Obviously, there's Teferis, there's Mystical Disputes, Dovin's Vetoes, Prison Realm, Time Wipe ×4. That card, like you were saying, just insane with Brazen Borrower. Being able to bounce it back to your hand. I mean, Brazen Borrower. If you go back and listen, me and Adam did an episode on Eldraine, on like the preview, the preview episode basically. Yep. Brazen Borrower was one of the cards. I was like, this thing is the real deal. I think people are underestimating it, and I'm glad that I was able to get one of those cards right because we totally bricked on Oko.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, this deck, and I'm glad you're out there and you're on Twitter promoting it and stuff, and now you're on here promoting it because it is, if you like to play Modern. And say there's like a standard PTQ, right, or something, an IQ coming up in your area, play it. I know, trust me, I am not a standard player, but holy smokes, this deck feels like blue-white from, 5 months ago or whatever in Modern. So it's very strong. It has the tools to deal with everything. Brazen Borrower just gives you that flexibility to be able to pretty much counteract anything.
Yeah, and you have a ton of ways to just continuously get back or continuously dig. 2 Mystic Sanctuary because that land is just too good not to play in a control deck.
So
like
good.
It's just insane. I play 2 mainboard Mystical Dispute because Jeskai Fires and Grixis Fires are both decks that are still relevant, and so being able to still have like a main deckable answer for those is extremely key, and it's basically like you're playing a sideboarded game 1 against them because they don't have the fluctuation spots to be able to attack everything, but you do. So this is a list that I've been working on, and I've been playing it as if Oko wasn't in Standard, and that's the whole thing is I took a lot of licks on the head. Like, I got beat up playing this deck, but then once Oko finally left, things just opened up, and just this new part of Standard where no one knows what's going on right now. is
Yeah.
probably the best time, one of the best times you can play control,
Oh.
or it's one of the best times you can play aggro because everybody's testing everything out. And I'll just say, for Tranquil Cove against aggro decks, for Absorb against aggro decks, like you're getting ahead of them, and they can't really do anything. And then when you time wipe and you bounce a borrower back, and then you can bounce that
Yeah.
creature back to their hand and set up before they can.
That interaction is like what makes the deck, in my opinion. Like,
Yeah.
being able to Teferi the borrower back to your hand or time wipe, and you're playing 4 of each. You're playing 4 time wipes, 4 Teferi, and 4 borrowers. So you get maximum value out of this card. It's not like you're just bouncing one thing one time with one borrower. You're typically bouncing 1.5 things with like a single borrower.
One reason why this feels like the control deck from Modern months ago is Brazen Borrower almost feels like a Vendilion click. Sure, you're not taking something out of their hand, but they're not drawing a card. You're just putting something back into their hand.
Yeah.
And one of my most favorite moments playing with Brazen Borrower is my opponent has 2 Rotting Regisaurs with no cards in his hand. I have 2 Brazen Borrowers. I let those triggers go on the stack, bounce both of them. He has to discard them both.
Oh, big brain plays, 1,000 IQ play.
Yeah. So there's just so much this deck can do and can attack you in so many different ways that makes it so hard to deal with.
Absolutely.
And so the guy that won the PTQ, he's in my in my Discord.
Yeah.
And he was playing a couple of things different in the sideboard, but really the main deck was all the same. He wanted to opt for a second Gadwick because that card is just it's insane.
I definitely agree with that. And since I've been playing this deck, I played a second Gadwick too. Just because the first time I cast that card, I was like, okay, this card's no joke. But other than that, it's the 74 of your 75 is what I've been playing. So,
yeah, I like it a lot.
Yeah, no, it's definitely good. Like I said, this is obviously usually a Pioneer and Modern podcast, but I just wanted to get you on to talk about this deck. And again, if you're in an area where Pioneer and Modern events aren't necessarily happening, and you got the itch to go play some competitive, go take down a PTQ with it, because somebody literally already has with this deck.
Yeah.
So, yeah, man. Is there anything else you want to say?
If you would like to look at this deck, you can follow me on Twitter. My @ is @JessGuy2.
Yep.
If all you have to do is just DM me or post somewhere and say, hey, I would like to be in your Discord, and I'd be more than happy to add you in the Discord with all the wonderful people that are already in there.
Absolutely.
I mentioned a couple of names like Pascal Maynard, Joey Pasco. I'm in there. A couple other people are in there.
I'm in there too.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, definitely keep up the good work, man. A lot of us on Solitary aren't focused necessarily on Standard. I've kind of taken up the role of like Pioneer for now, at least, while Blue White kind of takes a nosedive in Modern.
Yeah.
But you're holding the fort down in Standard, man, and really repping the squad. So, and you got a sideboard guide on here too. I didn't even notice this till I just scrolled down. There's a sideboard guide on this document too. So
so there's a full sideboard guide for every deck that I've played against in my 47 games.
Yeah.
So this is every single deck that I've played against since I've started playing comp REL tournaments with it.
Yeah.
So I have a full full sideboard guide that is accessible in the Discord.
This is good stuff for everybody listening. Like, this is really good stuff because, usually, you have to kind of work to get sideboard guides these days. So this is all, all free and all right here. I scrolled down to, see the 75, and then I go down one more, and there's a full sideboard guide with, maybe 10 different archetypes to check out. So awesome stuff, man. But yeah, do you have any other Any other housekeeping stuff before I do my sign off and everything? Feel free.
No, I just want to say thank you for having me on. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely.
If anyone is interested, feel free to reach out to me. I'd be more than happy to get you into the Discord or in some way that you would be able to have access to my list and sideboard guide. And if you can't find me for whatever reason,
I'll have all
I'm
your
sure
info
somebody out there.
I'll have all your info, your at and all that in the description and show notes. So they shouldn't have to look too hard.
Okay.
So yeah, man. Well, I definitely appreciate you coming on. It's been about 45 minutes ish. So that's all I really got. Modern blue-white players, it's real rough out here. Pioneer is a different story. I think there is room to explore. Blue-white, obviously, several people have been finding success with it. And then in Standard, I think we got a really, really good opportunity to get a lot of people on the Pro Tour with this deck because it's very strong. And I didn't win, so I played 4 games. I went 3-1, but in the game that I lost, I didn't think that I was like just ever dead until I was just dead, right? Like, you know what I mean? So definitely some great opportunities to play Control. As always, everyone, thank you so much for listening or watching. If you're on YouTube, make sure to smash that like and subscribe button like you do. And as always, huge shout out to Team Solitary Pro for sponsoring and, of course, the Patreon. Again, if you do want to become a patron, head on over to Patreon. That'll all be in the notes and all the description and all that. Consider throwing a couple bucks. I do appreciate it. As always, though, thank you, Magic players. Be kind to one another. Have a great night.